Dr. Wong, you have a view on some of these?
Yeah, I think just sort of building on what Peter Peter said and my previous comments, right? I think it's a very challenging issue because, it's not just sort of the CCP claiming to represent the voices of Chinese Americans or, anyone of ethnic Chinese descent, right? Because the CCP sees all ethnic Chinese as having some inherent or innate affinity or loyalty to China and the Chinese government, even though that is certainly not the case. Right, so that is a threat not just to national security, but also to the strength of our democracy and the rights and liberties of Chinese American communities and overseas Chinese, right? And as Peter mentioned, right, this comes about because of reliance on these community liaisons who come out of the woodwork and say, I'm here to get your votes, right? And so it's easy for politicians and sort of political candidates to rely on that. As a way, and I think that element of patronage politics, right, provides a way for foreign influence and interference to operate in U.S. elections. And the sort of the dominant way that the CCP tries to sort of influence U.S. elections, right, is through sort of positioning themselves as the sole representative and the only spinning the narrative, right? The Chinese government is the only one looking out for Chinese Americans and ethnic Chinese communities. And so sort of using this identity-based mobilization and sort of getting involved in community organizing to position themselves as leaders of these communities and say, we are here to take care of you. The American political system is marginalizing your voice, right? And that is sort of a way that weaponizes sort of a lot of the social and political issues within the United States to drive a wedge between these overseas Chinese communities and broader American society. And so I think that's a really important trend to note. And I think sort of another example you asked about sort of intimidation of Taiwanese or Chinese Americans. I think if you think about sort of in academia and higher education, right, where sort of some of this United Front influence has permeated these campuses, where again you see sort of some zealous Chinese students or Chinese student organizations sort of taking up the mantle of CCP interests for a range of reasons, right? It could be sort of ideological support. It could be sort of practical sort of career incentives, a desire to sort of get a leg up, when they return home and then get the job, right? Sort of there are these incentives to sort of associate with the Chinese consulate, to get resources and to sort of engage in peer monitoring and surveillance of other Chinese students on campus, to report on potential events, potential ways that supporters of Taiwan or opponent critics of the CCP regime, right, are sort of exercising their freedom of speech on campus. So I think that is sort of another complementary element of transnational repression.
Sign up for free and be part of the movement.
It isn't just an app. It isn't just a social media platform. It's a community.
Download Get It right now.